Today I'm going to test the legendary Faber Castell Polychromos, which many claim to be the top dog of colored pencils. Are they? Let's dive in. Now the first thing you're going to notice when you get your hands on these is the high quality case. These ones come in an emerald green magnetic box. There's also a metal tin as well as a big wooden case. All of these instantly tell you that the product is high quality since they have a really nice premium feel to them. This is a set of 36, but they come in a variety of packaging ranging from 120 to 12. Another thing I really like is that you can buy these as sets or individually. This is great if you go through certain colors faster than others or you want to build up your collection more mindfully. For me personally, I tend to use a lot of blues since I like those for my shadow work. Cracking these open, they look really, really nice. Size-wise, I'd say they're a little bit bigger than your average pencil, and they are also completely round all the way around versus having kind of like the hexagonal sides. And I really like how they are a little bit thicker, so it makes it a little bit more comfortable in hand when you're actually drawing. And looking at the weight, I'd say these are definitely heavier than just your normal number 2 pencil. And I know some people like to equate weight to quality, and I would definitely say this is the case here. It definitely does feel like a premium product in your hand. Now, Polychromos are oil-based pencils and not wax. I don't think this really makes a huge difference, at least in my personal work. But the oil-based pencils tend to be a little bit firmer of lead, which makes them a little bit harder to blend. However, they still blend very, very nicely, but that's just something to keep in mind if you're used to wax-based pencils. Plus, these pencils hold their point very well, which means less sharpening, which I personally really don't like. This might be a small thing, but the inside color matches the outside color perfectly. It's simple, but I think it's a really nice touch that ensures that when you're kind of pilfering through your pencil collection, you actually find exactly what you're looking for. Now you may have noticed right here 3 little stars. This measures the lightfastness of the pencil. Lightfastness measures how well the pigments resist fading, especially when it's exposed to harmful rays like UV lights from the sun. In other words, the more lightfast, the more your original art is going to stay to its true colors. Which I suppose is them basically saying that there's just a dense amount of pigment in the lead and it's going to stay vibrant for a long time. In my set of 36, all of them are rated for 3 stars, which is the maximum amount of stars. In fact, on the Faber Castell website, 102 out of the 120 are rated for the 3 stars, which makes me curious. Which ones are not 3 stars? Now I have to find out. Like, is it the lighter colors? If you know, drop it in the comments. In this set of 36, you get a pretty good spectrum of colors, which I'm really pleased with. The one thing I could use is maybe a little bit more dark tones, especially toward the ends of like the blues, greens, and purples, because the ones here are pretty vivid, but again, you can just build up to those colors. My biggest use case for my colored pencils is to crispen up my watercolor drawing, so having a nice selection of colors to choose from is super important to me, especially since I do like to create portraits where skin tones are very important. Now for this review, I thought it made sense to test how these actually perform against the claims that Faber Castell puts out. Claim number 1, 36 pencils. I think we can check this one off. Claim number 2, which we briefly went over at the start. They contain the highest quality pigments for unsurpassed lightfastness, which is rated on each pencil. I don't really have a good way of testing how high quality the pigments are, except for just working with the pencils and comparing them to like a Crayola, like department store brand. But for the lightfastness claims, I do have a way to test that. I'll take a picture of this portrait today in a controlled lighting environment and take another picture in a year and compare how much the colors have faded to the original picture. Subscribe if you want to see how it turns out. Claim number 3, they have a buttery smooth color laydown and can be easily blended for layered effects, highlights, and transitions. Let's do a world first and actually figure out how smooth is butter. Turns out, it's not very smooth. Now bear in mind this is refrigerated butter, so if you're trying this at home, check your life priorities. But the pencil laydown is quite smooth as you would expect. So for this claim, I'd say it remains inconclusive. Number 4, their thick 3.8mm lead are break and water resistant, provide sharp fine lines, smudge proof, and provide rich permanent color. I would say the colors are very vibrant, and you can definitely get a variety of colors just by adjusting how much pressure you're using with each pencil. Now the question you've all been waiting for. Are these blendable, and how do they layer? When I was doing my research on these and I was watching a couple other videos and reviews, Someone said that they did not think that these layered very well, but for me personally, I think the best practice is to use thin washes of colored pencil color. Also, your results vary very much based on the paper that you're using. All the drawings here are using a 98-pound mixed media sketchbook paper. And for the artists who are really looking to level up their game, I do feel like these are very blendable and you can really create a lot of realistic tones out of these. I also think once you get a lot of practice with them, you can really have a lot of depth and dimension to your work. I do feel like these are pretty break resistant. I have dropped these quite a bit, I'm not gonna lie, and none of them have broken so far, except for this little orange one where the lead just kind of came off a little bit, but I'm gonna just chalk that up to user error because I've had zero issues with any of the other ones. In terms of smudging, I actually disagree with Faber Castell here. When I was working on this piece, I actually had a fair amount of colored pencil on the bottom of my hand where I was drawing, which I kind of did not expect. I just kind of thought the color would stay put where it was, and I did not expect to have a full hand of just like variety of colored pencil tones, especially blues and reds. So I guess just be forewarned, there is definitely a little bit of smudging to be involved when you are working with pencils, which is to be expected. The other thing is that I have been able to erase just a little bit of the colors using a kneaded eraser. So that's actually kind of nice, I feel like. Be able to clean up a little bit of your mistakes and maybe just have a color not be as vibrant, just as popping off the page quite as much. Water resistance. Now, I have not dipped this entire page in water, but I have put watercolor on top of the colored pencils, and I've had no issues with the colored pencil smudging. Provides sharp, fine lines and excellent point retention. I would agree with that. I've had no issues with sharpening these, and I feel like the detail work is also really easy once you do get that sharp point. And the last claim is that there's no waxy bloom. I haven't experienced any of that, which is great, especially since these are oil-based colored pencils, so that would be really weird to have wax bloom on a non-wax colored pencil. Now, for the cons. And I think my first one is going to be the same as every other person who has reviewed these colored pencils, and that is the price. Now, I'm not gonna lie, these are pretty pricey, but if you're an artist and you want to add colored pencils to your arsenal, I think these are a wonderful buy, especially if you can get these on sale or maybe add them to like a holiday wish list or something so you can test them out and play around with them yourself. For the second con, I do wish there was a little bit more variety on either end of the spectrum. I wish there were a couple more darker colors and a couple more lighter colors as well. I feel like there's a great middle range, but just a little bit more tone variety on either end of the spectrum would be really nice. I have seen that feedback from a lot of artists, even the ones with the 120 colored pencil box. And lastly, it does take quite a bit of layers to get a very saturated look, but I think that's just the nature of the game with colored pencils. But I think that lets you have actually a little bit more control in terms of what shades and tones you want to get. So, for the final verdict, should you invest in Faber Castell Polychromos colored pencils? I think if you're serious about your art and you're looking for the high end of the colored pencil market, these are definitely worth the buy. They may be a little bit pricey, but I think in this case, they're worth it. Now, if you're looking to get colored pencils maybe for some small children, or you're just doing little doodles in a sketchbook, or, filling out coloring pages, they may not be worth it for you, but they still really elevate the hobby of coloring and make it really fun. I'm personally very happy with my purchase, and I'm really looking forward to creating more colored pencil work in the future.